you guys are having a great day, and I thought it would be fun with Jurassic World coming out to talk a little bit about the director of the original Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg, and tell you about some of my favorites and maybe some of his misses. He's definitely one of the most prolific and diverse film directors that we have. I think it's pretty amazing to think that the year that Jurassic Park was released, he also released Schindler's List, that one director could, in 1 year, direct such different kinds of movies that are both so good. This isn't really a ranking because I find it impossible to do such a ranking, because how do you rank Indiana Jones versus Schindler's List? They're so different. I can't even tell you. So these are just, instead of ranking, these are just movies of his that I think are great. And I don't own all of them because a movie like Schindler's List, I don't really feel I want to have that on Blu-ray, as great as it is, because it's not one I really want to rewatch a lot, because it's brutal and it's really hard to watch and it's painful. And, you know, it's one that I may want to rent from time to time. You know, maybe on an anniversary of a World War II event or something like that. But it's tough. It's really tough. It's the same thing with Saving Private Ryan. But I think that both those movies are must-sees. They're the photography is incredible. The cinematography. I love the black and white in Schindler's List. I love how Oscar Schindler is really kind of a bad guy. I mean, he's not a good person, and yet because things were so messed up, he becomes a good person. He's kind of an original anti-hero in a way, and I think that's really interesting. I think Ben Kingsley is so good in it, so good as just this sincere, desperate person, but very smart. And the scene with the girl with the red coat is just one you'll never forget. It's amazing, and it's something we shouldn't ever forget. And I think that with Saving Private Ryan, it's probably the best war movie ever made. I mean, the D-Day sequence is astonishing, and it feels like you are there. It's so intense and emotional, and but oddly kind of clinical, in the sense that, like, it's just showing you what you can imagine, at least what might have happened. It's not trying to manipulate you. There's no need for that. It's just showing a battle. And it's not like, say, Braveheart, which I think is a really good movie. But Braveheart, you know, you've got the big speech and you've got the battle, and, you know, it's way more sort of trying to manipulate the viewer. Whereas, like, in Saving Private Ryan, it's really just, this is the battle, this is what happened. One that I definitely think every person should see, especially anybody in the United States should see it. We should know the sacrifice that people from that generation made for our freedom. Another great movie of his that I don't own is Minority Report, and that would be a totally rewatchable. I just, for some reason, I haven't gotten it yet on Blu-ray, but it's a very, very, very interesting movie based on a Philip K. Dick story, and I always like his stories and movies. It's a different kind of feel for a Steven Spielberg movie. Tom Cruise is really good in it. It's a great sci-fi story. Now, ones I do own that I really love of his, we have E.T., which is just a wonderful story, a coming-of-age story of a boy. He finds the alien, and of course the alien is sweet, and he needs to get him back home, and he doesn't want the government to take him, and it's funny, and it's got heart, and it's great to look at. And we have the 2 Indiana Jones movies that I like. There's 4, I like 2. I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's an amazing action movie. Harrison Ford is so charismatic. You love him defeating the Nazis. And same thing in 3, which is probably my favorite of the Indiana Jones movies. I love the addition of Sean Connery. I think that really, really, really works. And I think the Quest for the Holy Grail is very, very, very fun. So we have Jaws, which is super scary. I'm not a big scary movie person, but Jaws does a lot of things really well as far as building suspense without actually seeing the creature, without actually seeing the shark that much. And they did that because I guess the shark just wasn't looking all that good. The foam shark that they were able to have, and so, but I think that served to their benefit because it was a lot scarier. The unknown is scarier than the known. And his movies have great music, and a lot of it by John Williams. Okay, then we have Jurassic Park, which I also own. This is actually randomly the movie that I have seen in the theaters more than any other movie. Because for some reason, in my hometown, this movie stayed in my theaters for like a year. I remember because it was in the regular theaters for a really long time, and then we had a dollar theater, and it was there forever. And I saw it at least 6 times in my memory. Which is really funny because it's normally not my kind of movie because I don't like scary movies. But this, I think the cast is so charismatic and it has enough humor and enough sort of moments to breathe away from the dinosaurs that it works really well. Jeff Goldblum, I think, is key to making this movie work, just like he does with Independence Day. And just the whole spectacle of it was so new. I mean, that was part of the problem I had with San Andreas, is that none of it felt that new to me. It was all stuff I'd kind of seen before. Whereas this was new, and I think it holds up pretty well as far as special effects go, and the music is great. So the ones I own, another one that I couldn't find, I own it somewhere, is The Adventures of Tintin, which he did with Peter Jackson, and that was so entertaining. Stop motion animation. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check that one out. I thought that Lincoln was solid. It's not my favorite of his because I think it has too many characters and too many plots. I think it would have been better as like a 7-part miniseries, but Daniel Day-Lewis is amazing in it. And it is an interesting part of American history. So Lincoln, I think The Color Purple is solid. It's not my favorite, but it's a solid, good movie, good performances. Brutal in a lot of ways. Amistad is another of his that is very, very tough to watch, but very moving, and I think actually important to watch as well. I feel like Steven Spielberg loves these big, big moments, big swelling music, and I felt like in Lincoln sometimes people were trying to tell me how to feel too many times, and there were too many times when I was like, oh, that's the ending. Okay, this is it. This is the big climax. And then there would be another thing and another thing. And so it was mixed for me, but I did like it. I thought Warhorse was solid, a good, good entertaining story, good entertaining animal movie. One I think is kind of overrated and I don't really care for is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I think is kind of boring. I didn't really get it. I didn't think it had much heart. I thought it kind of, I don't know. I didn't get into the characters. I didn't really like the characters. It didn't work for me. I think his Stanley Kubrick collaboration in AI is mixed, but I still think it's kind of interesting to see both those directors kind of combine together. Whether it was obviously by accident because of Kubrick's passing, but I think it's an interesting, not necessarily that effective combination. I think that The Lost World is also a mixed bag. It's one that I don't know. I was really disappointed because, again, I saw the original Jurassic Park like 6 times. I really loved it. And to me, The Lost World was a lot of retread of the original. And I haven't seen it in a long time, so maybe I'd like it better now. But that was my feeling back in the day. Another one that I think is kind of overrated is Catch Me If You Can. I was disappointed. Everyone said, oh, it's so great, it's so great, it's so great. And I didn't think it was that great. I thought that it was kind of predictable. And I thought the performances were pretty good, but I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. One I haven't seen a few of his. I haven't seen Munich. I want to, but I just haven't seen that one. A couple other mixed ones I think Hook is mixed. I think Julia Roberts is miscast as Tinkerbell. It doesn't work for me, the performance. I think Robin Williams is really good. I think it gets a little cheesy and it's a little maudlin, but I think Dustin Hoffman is really good as Hook, and it's overall it's an entertaining family film, although not like a masterpiece, I don't think. Empire of the Sun, I think, is one of his weaker ones, one of his earlier ones. It's really slow. It's really boring. Although Christian Bale is good as a kid actor. War of the Worlds is, I think, a mixed one as well. I think it's fine. It's just sort of an average disaster movie. But I think Tom Cruise is really good in it. And it definitely keeps my attention going. And, you know, I think that the design of the aliens is a little off. They kind of remind me of the robots in the Incredibles, actually, which I just reviewed on my blog, by the way. And so it's a little, they're just not that menacing to me. And The Terminal and Always I have not seen. The one that I'm saving for last, that is my least favorite, definitely without a doubt, of his movies is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And it's a little bit hard to fault Steven Spielberg that much for this movie, because he was kind of doing it as a favor for George Lucas, their friends, and it was George Lucas's idea. It was George Lucas's, you know, he might as well have directed it, because he thought that the earlier films were an homage to 1930s movies, and so he thought, well, now we've moved up 20 years, we're going to make this one an homage to 1950s movies, and we're going to have aliens, and we're going to have Russians, and, you know, everything. And it just didn't work at all. I mean, the special effects are terrible. The CGI monkeys, you know, and you have to bring in Shia LaBeouf, who, it's not his fault. The movie's bad, but he doesn't help it. Let's put it that way. And Harrison Ford looks bored. He's not his normal charismatic self. Just goes completely crazy with the aliens and the fridge and the surviving the atomic explosion, spoiler alert, sorry, within the fridge, which is just ridiculous. And it doesn't have the gritty, earthy stunts that the originals had. And it was a huge disappointment. I guess I haven't talked about Temple of Doom either, which I also don't care for. It's certainly a lot better than Crystal Skull, and the stunts are amazing in Temple of Doom. But I didn't like sort of the heathen. I just don't think that's as strong as a Nazi fighting the Nazis. This weird cult, this weird tribe. I didn't particularly like that storyline, and Kate Capshaw is so annoying in it that it just becomes simple and pleasant. She's just so shrinky and awful. So those would probably be my two least favorite, which is funny because I really I love the Indiana Jones movies. I love 1 and 3, but I do not like 2 and 4, but 4 is definitely the worst, and I think it's the worst Steven Spielberg movie. His other ones, like even a movie like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I can see where he's getting at. It just didn't quite work for me. But it's not a bad movie, but I think that Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull is legitimately a bad movie. So I think that's a pretty amazing career, and that's just the movies he's directed, let alone the movies he's produced and been involved in, and also series like Animaniacs and things like that. So he's an amazing talent, an amazing gift to cinema. So let me know, what's your favorite Steven Spielberg movie? And like I said, if I missed one, I'm sorry. Put it in the comment section, and I would love to talk about it. So are you guys excited for Jurassic World? And I think his new movie is called Bridge of Spies, Steven Spielberg, and I think that's next year. So that'll be really fun. So I hope you're all having a great day, and please subscribe to my channel. I'll talk to you later.